Hello, everybody, again. Pick up in the Bible, Ezra, the first of, well, back time, the last one that I'm going over, of the middle prophets. Then we go into Chronicles and Kings, which is more historical, but there's nothing there to learn. Then we do Samuel, the first prophet, and Ruth. And then I believe we're getting into the judges who rule things, control things. Then you get into the book of Moses. So I'll be here in this world, I'm sure, at the very least, until we get to the beginning of the Bible, to the very beginning. Okay, this was Ezra. This goes back to when they were still in Persia. Not too long, it's a shorter one. 7, like Nehemiah, 10, 10 chapters. So maybe I'll do this in 2 readings. Ezra 1. In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his realm and also to put it in writing. So this is all around the same time. Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Isaiah, Nehemiah, Ezra. They're all in the same general time period. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up to Jerusalem in Judah and build the temple of the Lord, the God of Israel, the God who is in Jerusalem, and may their God be with them, and in any locality where survivors may now be living. People are to provide them with silver and gold, with goods and livestock, and with free will offerings for the temple of God, Jerusalem. So this is about when they're being given permission to go back home and rebuild the temple, the city and temple. Then the family heads of Judah and Benjamin, and the priests and Levites, everyone whose heart God had moved, prepared to go up and build the house of the Lord in Jerusalem. All their neighbors assisted them with articles of silver and gold, goods and livestock, and with valuable gifts, in addition to all the free will offerings. Moreover, King Cyrus brought out the articles belonging to the temple of the Lord, which Nebuchadnezzar had carried away from Jerusalem and had placed in the temple of his God. Cyrus, king of Persia, had them brought by Mithredath, the treasurer, who counted them out to Sheshbazzar, the prince of Judah. And it gives an inventory of that. In all, there were 5,400 articles of gold and silver. Sheshbazzar brought all these along with the exiles, and they came up from Babylon to Jerusalem. Chapter 2. Now these are the people of the province who came up from the captivity of the exiles, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had taken captive to Babylon. They returned to Jerusalem and Judah, each to their own town, in company with Zerubbabel, Joshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Realiah, I may be mispronouncing these, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispah, Bigvah, Rehum, and Baanah. A list of the men of the people of Israel. It lists all these people. Descendants of Parosh and all their descendants, men of Bethlehem and all descendants, the priests, the Levites, the musicians, all their descendants, the gatekeepers of the temple, which I may have been one, I don't know, but was one of the other gatekeepers, the temple servants, descendants of the servants of Solomon, the temple servants of and descendants of the servants of Solomon, many others, descendants. Just list them all and how many was with them. The descendants of Hobiah, Hakaz, and Barzillai, a man who had married a daughter of Barzillai the Gileadite, was called by that name. These searched for their family records, but they could not find them, and so were excluded from the priesthood as unclean. The governor ordered them not to eat any of the most sacred food until there was a priest ministering with the Urim and Thummim. I'm not sure what that is. Urim and Thummim. You have to look that up on your own. I didn't know this beforehand to look it up and explain it to you. The whole company joining Israel numbered 42,360. Besides, there are 7,337 male and female slaves, and they also had 200 male and female singers. They had 736 horses, 245 mules, 135 camels, and 6,720 donkeys. When they arrived at the house of the Lord in Jerusalem, some of the heads of the families gave free will offerings toward the rebuilding of the house of God on the site. They wanted to be free will offerings. According to their ability, they gave up to the treasury for this work 51,000 derricks of gold, 5,000 minas of silver, and 100 priestly garments. The priests, the Levites, the musicians, the gatekeepers, and the temple servants settled in their own towns, along with some of the other people, and the rest of the Israelites settled in their towns. Chapter 3. When the seventh month came, and the Israelites had settled in their towns, the people assembled together as one in Jerusalem. Then Joshua, son of Jozadak, and his fellow priests, this is different Joshua than the earlier one, Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and his associates, began to build the altar of the God of Israel to sacrifice burnt offerings on it, in accordance with what is written in the law and of Moses and the man of God. God doesn't need burnt offerings anymore. This is long ago. Despite their fear of the peoples around them, they built the altar on its foundation and sacrificed burnt offerings on it to the Lord, both the morning and evening sacrifices. And in accordance with what is written, they celebrated the Festival of Tabernacles with the required number of burnt offerings prescribed for each day. After that, they presented the regular burnt offerings, the new moon sacrifices, and the sacrifices for all the appointed sacred festivals of the Lord, as well as those brought as freewill offerings to the Lord. On the first day of the seventh month, they began to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, though the foundation of the Lord's temple had not yet been laid. Then they gave money to the masons and carpenters, and gave food and drink and olive oil to the people of Sidon and Tyre, so that they would bring cedar logs by sea from Lebanon to Joppa, as authorized by Cyrus, king of Persia. It's all Persian land. Everybody was ordered to help them with the supplies. The second month of the second year, after their arrival at the house of God in Jerusalem, Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the rest of the people, priests and Levites, all who had returned from the captivity in Jerusalem, began the work. They appointed Levites, the priests, 20 years old and older, to supervise the building of the house of the Lord. Joshua and his sons and brothers, Kadmiel and his sons, the sons of Henadad and their sons and brothers, all Levites, joined together in supervising those working on the house of God. The priests were supervising the rebuilding of the temple. When the builders laid the foundation of the temple of the Lord, the priests in the vestments and with trumpets, and the Levites, the cymbals, took their places to praise the Lord, as described by David, king of Israel. With praise and thanksgiving they sang to the Lord. He is good, his love toward Israel endures forever. All the people gave a great shout of praise to the Lord, because the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid. But many of the older priests and Levites and family heads who had seen the former temple wept aloud when they saw the foundation of this temple being laid, while many others shouted for joy. No one could distinguish the sound of the shouts of joy from the sound of weeping, because the people made so much noise. The sound was heard far away. Chapter 4. When the enemies of Judah and Benjamin heard that the exiles were building a temple for the Lord, the God of Israel, they came to Zerubbabel, the heads of the families, and said, "Let us help you build, because, like you, we seek your God and have been sacrificing to him since the time of Esarhaddon, king of Syria, who brought us here." So now the enemies are volunteering to help them. But Zerubbabel, Joshua, and the rest of the heads of the families of Israel answered, "You have no part with us in building a temple to our God. We alone will build it for the Lord, the God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, commanded us." Then the peoples around them set out to discourage the people of Judah and make them afraid to go on building. So who does this sound like? Who would be behind this sort of thing, driving these people? The devil. The devil uses other people. That's why you have to have discernment of God. You have darkness. God's wisdom and knowledge, his word, his truth, his will, so that you can discern what's really going on. They bribed officials to work against them and frustrate their plans during the entire reign of Cyrus, king of Persia, down to the reign of Darius, king of Persia. At the beginning of the reign of Xerxes, they lodged an accusation against the people of Judah and Jerusalem. In the days of Artaxerxes, king of Persia, Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabeel, and the rest of his associates wrote a letter to Artaxerxes. The letter was written in Aramaic script and in the Aramaic language. Rehum, the commanding officer, and Shimshai, the secretary, wrote a letter against Jerusalem to Artaxerxes, the king, as follows. Rehum, the commanding officer, and Shimshai, the secretary, together with the rest of their associates, the judges, officials, and administrators over the people of Persia, Uruk, and Babylon, the Elamites of Susa, and the other people whom the great and honorable Ashurbanipal deported and settled the city of Samaria and elsewhere in Trans-Euphrates. So it still goes on today. Those are not the Hebrews who were against them, who God destroyed and took the land from, have been constantly against them, constantly been surrounded by enemies. This is a copy of the letter they sent him. King Artaxerxes. Of the servants in Trans-Euphrates, the king should know that the people who came up to us from you have gone to Jerusalem and are rebuilding that rebellious and wicked city. They are restoring the walls and repairing the foundations. So rebellious and wicked are calling them rebellious and wicked. Again, who would be behind that? The devil. Furthermore, the king should know that if this city is built and its walls are restored, no more taxes, tribute, or duty will be paid, and eventually the royal revenues will suffer. Now, since we are under obligation to the palace, and it is not proper for us to see the king dishonored, we are sending this message to inform the king so that a search may be made in the archives of your predecessors. Now they're trying to make it about money. In these records, you will find that this city is a rebellious city, troublesome to kings and provinces, a place with a long history of sedition. That is why this city was destroyed. We inform the king that if this city is built and its walls restored, you will be left with nothing in Trans-Euphrates. The devil plays the same tricks even today. The king sent this reply. To Rehum, the commanding officer, Shimshai the secretary, and the rest of their associates living in Samaria and elsewhere in Trans-Euphrates. Greetings. The letter you sent us has been read and translated in my presence. I issued an order and a search was made. It was found that the city has a long history of revolt against kings and has been a place of rebellion and sedition. Jerusalem has had powerful kings ruling over the whole of Trans-Euphrates, and taxes, tribute, and duty were paid to them. Now issue an order to these men to stop work so that the city will not be rebuilt until I so order. Be careful not to neglect this matter. Why let this effect grow to the detriment of the royal interests? They lied and deceived the ruler of Persia. Devil sounds like Hamas. Sounds like Palestinians. Sounds like Iran. As soon as a copy of the letter of King Artaxerxes was read to Rehum Shimshai, the secretary and associates, they went immediately to the Jews in Jerusalem and compelled them by force to stop. Thus the work on the house of God in Jerusalem came to a standstill until the second year of the reign of Darius, king of Persia. Chapter 5. Now Haggai, the prophet, and Zechariah, the prophet, a descendant of Edo, prophesied to the Jews in Judah and Jerusalem in the name of the God of Israel who was over them. Then Zerubbabel, son of Shealtiel, and Joshua, son of Jozadak, set to work to rebuild the house of God in Jerusalem. The prophets of God were with them, supporting them. At that time, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates went to them and asked, "Who authorized you to rebuild this temple and to finish it?" They also asked, "What are the names of those who are constructing this building?" The eye of their God was watching over the elders of the Jews, and they would not stop until a report would go to Darius, and his written reply would be received. This is a copy of the letter that Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates, officials of Trans-Euphrates, sent to King Darius. What they sent read as follows. So they're commanded by God to continue to build and watch over them. So now somebody else is complaining and writing a letter. Different king now. It's King Darius, cordial greetings. The king should know that we went to the district of Judah, to the temple of the great God. The people are building it with large stones and placing the timbers in the walls. So it's further along. The work is being carried on with diligence and making rapid progress under the direction. We questioned the elders and asked them who authorized you to rebuild this temple to finish it. We also asked them their names so that we could write down the names of their leaders for your information. This is the answer they gave us. We are the servants of the God of heaven and earth, and we are rebuilding the temple that was built many years ago, one that a great king of Israel built and finished. Because their ancestors angered the God of heaven, he gave them into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar, the Chaldean king of Babylon, who destroyed this temple and deported the people to Babylon. However, in the first year of Cyrus, king of Babylon, King Cyrus issued a decree to rebuild this house of God. He even removed from the temple of Babylon the gold and silver articles of the house of God which Nebuchadnezzar had taken from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to the temple in Babylon. Then King Cyrus gave them to a man named Sheshbazzar, whom he had appointed governor. He told them, "Take these articles and go and deposit them in the temple in Jerusalem, and rebuild the house of God on its site." So this Sheshbazzar came and laid the foundations of the house of God in Jerusalem. From that day to the present, it has been under construction, but is not yet finished. Now, if it pleases the king, let a search be made in the royal archives of Babylon to see if King Cyrus did, in fact, issue a decree to rebuild this house of God in Jerusalem, and let the king send us his decision in this matter. I'll pick on chapter 6. We'll finish it on chapter 7. 7 through 10 we'll finish the next time. King Darius then issued an order, and they searched in the archives stored in the treasury of Babylon. A scroll was found in the citadel of Ecbatana in the province of Media, and this is written on it. Memorandum. In the first year of King Cyrus, the king issued a decree concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. That the temple be rebuilt as a place to present sacrifices, and let its foundations be laid. It is to be 60 cubits high, 60 cubits wide, and 3 courses of large stones and 1 of timbers. The cost is to be paid by the royal treasury. Also, the gold and silver articles of the house of God, which Nebuchadnezzar took from the temple in Jerusalem and brought to Babylon, are to be returned to their places in the temple in Jerusalem. They are to be deposited in the house of God. Now then, Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai, and you other officials of that province, stay away from there. Do not interfere with the work on this temple of God. Let the governor of the Jews and the Jewish elders rebuild this house of God on this site. It's Darius giving them their answer. Moreover, I hereby decree that you are to do for these elders of the Jews in the construction, what you are to do for these elders of the Jews in the construction of this house of God. Their expenses to be fully paid out of the royal treasury from the revenues of Trans-Euphrates, so that the work will not stop. Whatever is needed, young bulls, rams, male lambs, burnt offerings to the God of heaven, wheat, salt, wine, olive oil, as requested by the priests of Jerusalem, must be given them daily without fail, so that they may offer sacrifices pleasing to the God of heaven and pray for the well-being of the king and his sons. Furthermore, I decree that if anyone defies this edict, the beam is to be pulled from their house, and they are to be impaled on it. For this crime, their house was to be made a pile of rubble. May God, who has caused his name to dwell there, overthrow any king or people who lifts a hand to change this decree or to destroy this temple in Jerusalem. I, Darius, have decreed it. Let it be carried out with diligence. So that backfired. The previous king listened to their lies, their tricks. This king was moved by God to quench that. Then, because of the decree of King Darius sent, and because of this decree, King Darius sent Tattenai, governor of Trans-Euphrates, and Shethar-Bozenai and their associates carried it out with diligence. So the elders of the Jews continued to build and prosper under the preaching of Haggai the prophet, Zechariah, a descendant of Edo. They finished building the temple according to the command of the God of Israel and the decrees of Cyrus, Darius, and Artaxerxes, kings of Persia. The temple was completed, so one king was lied to and deceived, the other one delved deeper and found out that they'd been lied to. The temple was completed on the third day of the month Adar in the 6th year of the reign of King Darius. So that was the second year of King Darius. Started, I think, what it said. First full year. So it took almost 6 years to build it. Then the people of Israel, the priests, the Levites, and the rest of the exiles celebrated the dedication of the house of God with joy. For the dedication of this house of God, they offered 100 bulls, 200 rams, 400 males, so on and so forth. And they installed the priests in their divisions and Levites in their groups for the service of God at Jerusalem, according to what is written in the book of Moses. God doesn't need sacrifices, he doesn't need animal blood sacrifices anymore, because everything belongs to him. What use does he have of those sacrifices? He wants what's not his, which is you, your burdens, your guilt, your sin, your shame, your fears, your doubts, your worries, and all that stuff. Your time, your love, your honor, obedience, respect, devotion. These are the things he wants that belongs to you. On the 14th day of the first month, the exiles celebrated the Passover. The priests and Levites had purified themselves and were all ceremonially clean. The Levites slaughtered the Passover lamb for all the exiles, for their relatives, the priests, and for themselves. So the Israelites who had returned from exile ate it, together with all who had separated themselves from the unclean practices of their Gentile neighbors, in order to seek the Lord, the God of Israel. For 7 days they celebrated with joy the festival of unleavened bread, because the Lord had filled them with joy by changing the attitude of the king of Assyria, so that he assisted them in the work in the house of God, the God of Israel. So God was aware of what the devil was doing, his enemies, and he came and took care of it. Put an end to that. Which he will always do. Nothing is hidden from him. Nothing is hidden from him. And if you follow him, devote yourself to him, he will take care of everything for you. He will make everything right for you. Sometimes he tests that faith of yours. You just never or hardly ever talking to him or listening to him. And then all of a sudden you go and complaining to him and you ask him why, or I need help with this. Stick to it. Keep going. Focusing on him. Doing what he asks. Ask what you can do for him. It's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about anyone. It's about him. What he wants, what he needs. So finish this next time. 7 to 10 as well. Lord, praise Lord Jesus Christ. Just keep him really, it's reiterated enough, especially in this end times. Focus on him, keep him in your life. Doesn't mean all day long. Communicate to him, talk to him, and spend time. You can do that, absolutely. But he knows you have your life to live. When he's communicating to you, listening. listen. When he asks you to do something, do it. You put it off, you put yourself ahead of him. It's like pop quizzes in school. Stop what you're doing and take the test, do the test, complete the task. Not at your convenience. It's not a take-home exam. It's to do it now. Stay safe. Enjoy the holiday. Peace of Christ. God bless.